new growth, the hair that grows out of your head after you've started your dreadlocks. Despite how it may appear with all the shrinking and compressing and loss of length that you can experience with young dreadlocks, your hair is actually always growing, constantly. Day in, day out, whether you're looking or not, it is always growing. This hair is obviously not going to have been backcombed or twist and ripped or anything like that. It's going to grow out as regular, normal hair. So this obviously is going to lead a lot of people to ask, what happens to that hair? What do you do with that hair? Does this hair need to be maintained? Does this hair need to be redone? Will my hair just grow out as straight normal hair and the dreadlocks grow out and then everything be ruined and fall apart? Now these questions generally originate from people who are going with a twist and rip or a backcomb approach to dreadlocks rather than people who have gone neglect freeform for two reasons. For number one, because if you're going natural neglect freeform, you generally don't ask how do you maintain or redo something because you are, just waiting for it to do it by itself. That's the entire point. And number two, if you're going natural neglect freeform, you already get a pretty good idea of what is going to happen to the new growth because you've experienced it, you've seen it happen to your existing growth, and you can just assume that it's going to happen again with the new growth. And it does. In fact, this exact same process occurs whether you've gone natural neglect freeform or backcomb or twist and rip. Regardless of what method you've used to start your dreadlocks, the new growth is going to lock up in the exact same way. That is one of the main goals of letting your dreadlocks mature. Get to that mature place, that magical place, in that once they are matured, once the existing length is locked up and you've left them for long enough, that new growth will lock itself, it will knot up, and you won't have to worry about it. The process will continue. So what is actually going on there? Okay, hairs that are close together are likely to lock together. So if you're going natural neglect freeform, that means that hairs that grow near one another, let's say this clump of hair here, they're close to each other, they're going to interact with each other, they're going to form knots, they're going to lock up. For backcomb or twist and rip, you got your twist and ripped lump or your backcombed lump. Hairs within those lumps, they're close to each other, they're going to interact with each other, they're going to lock up, they're going to tighten, they're going to form mature locks. With backcomb and twist and rip, what you have to remember is the backcomb, the twist and rip, that is not creating the mature, finished dreadlock. It is starting them, it is holding sections together in lumps so you can decide where the dreadlocks are going to be. You can have something that sort of looks dreadlock shaped from the start, but it is not creating the finished mature dreadlocks. It's just holding hairs close to each other, and then those hairs, once they're held close to each other, they're going to interact. Over time, they're going to mature, they're going to tighten up. It is the same process as with neglect freeform, but you've forced hairs into positions where they're going to interact, and you've basically said, you hairs, you're going to lock up, rather than neglect is letting your head decide which groups of hair interact with each other during their day-to-day life. At the root, it is the exact same thing regardless of method. You've got a knotted section, and whether those knots have formed from hairs that have interacted with one another naturally, or whether those knots have formed from hairs that have been backcombed together or twist and ripped together, it doesn't matter. Those hairs are knotted up and they're going to have new growth that grows out straight, again regardless of what has happened to the existing length. This new growth does not need to be backcombed or twist and ripped in order to get those hairs to be held together to lock up. They're going to be held together by the knots already above them. They don't need any extra help. As the dreadlocks get older, as they mature, you'll find that they compress and tighten, and as they compress and tighten, they get locked up closer and closer to the root. And it's a process that continues all the way up the length of the dread. As it knots up this bit, it holds the loose section above it closer together. They're going to interact, they're going to lock, it's going to tighten, and it's going to move up and move up and move up. Once the dreadlocks reach a mature state, generally that means only an inch or so is still loose. You wouldn't want them to be tighter than that to the root because they would stick up on end. You want them to be able to move, and that's generally about where they will lock up to by themselves, around an inch or so of loose hair. See, there's a bit of looseness here. I can fit my finger if I really try between my head and the locked up bit. The hair is slowly growing out at a constant rate. It's slowly knotting up at a constant rate. That process will continue forever. Doesn't need touching, doesn't need any help. With young dreadlocks, it can obviously be quite scary because it does look like it's growing out, because you will get straight, unknotted hair growing out of your head. If you've gone natural, neglect, freeform, the process is much more linear. It goes from no knots to knot, slowly, and you can watch the entire thing form. It is a little bit different with backcomb, twist and rip. Backcomb and twist and rip give a sort of illusion that all the hair is at a certain stage where they're already knotted up to some extent, when in fact within the twist and ripped sections, within the backcomb sections, they're not mature, they're not tight. You're just holding those hairs close to each other, and then over time they will mature and tighten. But even so, there will be quite a contrast between the part that's kind of fluffy from back comb or knotty from twist and rip, it will contrast quite a lot between that and the new growth, which will be straight. With natural neglect, you won't notice much of the contrast because it's over the entire length. But with back comb, twist and rip, it can look quite scary. There is obviously a temptation there to go in with the back comb and make that bit fluffy and tight to match the rest of the dread. A lot of people will ask me, should I redo the new growth because it's growing out and it doesn't look all that pretty. Some people even ask me, should I retwist and rip that new growth? I'm not entirely sure how you would actually do that, but again, it doesn't need to be done. I would not recommend trying to redo the new growth. Back combing is still combing. It is still going to brush through progress that is already there. And if you've gone through the back comb process, you will know that freshly back combed dreads, they're not finished, they're not mature, they're not, tightly locked together. It's just fluffy lumps of hair. You don't want to put that new growth back to day one because it's gonna then mess up any progress that's already made. It'll grow out some more and then you'll reback comb, and it'll grow out some more and it'll reback comb. It'll be a constant process, never giving the roots long enough to lock up and tighten on their own. Whereas if you just leave them and give them the time they need, it's gonna be ugly for a little bit as they grow out. But that's just kind of the nature of young dreadlocks. They don't look all that great. But once you've got through it, once you've given them the time, they will lock to the root and then they will stay locked to the root. It will lock as they grow out and then you don't need to worry about it, you don't need to fix it or anything. It's good from then on. Some people will maintain their dreadlocks with a crochet hook, and the same as with the back comb, you are going to want to avoid going near the roots. You can make them super tight to the roots and then they will look mature and tight to the root, but it's not going to give them the space to lock up and tighten on their own, and that means that they will just grow out and need redoing, and then grow out and need redoing. They do need that time to be left in order for them to mature and lock naturally by themselves. As an example of new growth that has locked my entire length of hair. My initial length, the part that was originally back combed all those many years ago, is no longer here. It's been trimmed off over the years. All of the hair that you see here is new growth that has grown out from the root above the originally back combed section. It has all locked up and knotted by itself. It continues to lock up by itself. There's never been any extra maintenance or redoing to the new growth. Just time given, and after the dreadlocks have got to their mature stage, it's no worries, it's done. So there we go, that is my video on dreadlock new growth. Do not fear the new growth. It's going to grow out, but it is going to lock up, and it's going to lock up and form mature dreadlocks, and you're going to get extra length. And remember, the new growth is not going to suffer from lumps and bumps and loops, because it grows at a constant rate and locks at a constant rate. You're just going to get smooth dreadlocks growing out forever. If you found this video helpful, useful, informative, please click the like button so I know that you found it useful and helpful. If you have any questions, comments, queries regarding dreadlock new growth or dreadlocks in general, you can either leave me a comment down here below the YouTube video, or you can tweet me at twitter.com/lazy_dreads. You can also join the Facebook page at facebook.com/lazydreads, and as always, all my content can be found on lazydreads.com. If you'd like to see more videos from me in the future, you can of course subscribe, and then all my new content will be sent straight to your YouTube feed. Thanks for watching, I hope to see you again soon. Farewell!